Ever stopped at a truck stop in the middle of nowhere in the dead of night? Yeah, me neither. But if I did, I'd make damn sure I kept my eyes open. You'll see why when I tell you about the time I made a wrong turn and ended up at the Blue Light Truck Stop, a place where everyone has glowing blue eyes and speaks in riddles. And if you think that sounds creepy, well, you're about to find out it's just the beginning. It was one of those drives where you start thinking you've gone way too far, and yet, somehow, you keep going. You know the kind. Just a couple of highway miles, a few dead radio stations, the hum of your tires on the pavement, and your mind starts drifting. It was around 2 a.m. when I saw the exit sign, the big green one with the arrow pointing to a truck stop. I'd been on the road for hours. Honestly, I was half sleeping behind the wheel. My eyes were heavy, and my body felt like it was made of lead. So when I saw the exit, I thought, why not? A quick pit stop, some coffee, and I could stretch my legs. Nothing weird about that, right? I pulled off onto the exit ramp and down a narrow, winding road that led into the middle of nowhere. The only light was the occasional flicker of streetlights overhead, casting long, eerie shadows across the cracked asphalt. I hadn't seen a car in what felt like hours. My stomach growled, a reminder that I hadn't eaten since the last greasy diner 500 miles back. I could use something hot, maybe even a warm bed if I was lucky. The sign for the truck stop finally appeared in front of me, glowing under the faint light of the moon. It was old, rusted metal letters with peeling paint. The Blue Light Truck Stop, the sign read. I don't know why, but something about the name made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But I wasn't about to turn back now. I was already there. I parked my truck, a big rig, just outside the convenience store. The truck stop was practically deserted, and the dim glow from the fluorescent lights inside barely cut through the thick night air. Still, I felt an odd pull to go in. There was no one else around, which, in hindsight, should have been my first warning sign. But I figured it was just one of those quiet truck stops that nobody really bothered to stop at. As I stepped out, the air felt heavy, thick with humidity, like the night itself was closing in. I pushed through the doors of the convenience store, and the bell above the door jingled. Inside, the place looked like it had been frozen in time. Old checkered tile floors, dusty shelves filled with snacks and canned goods, the faint smell of stale coffee in the air. There was a small counter, with a woman behind it, and she looked up when I walked in. Her eyes, I can't explain it, but they were glowing. A soft blue like they were reflecting the moonlight. I didn't say anything at first, thinking maybe it was just the light. But then I noticed that everyone here had the same thing. All of them. Staff. The one guy sitting at the far table. Even the truck driver filling up his rig at the pump. Everyone's eyes glowed bright blue. I froze. My mind tried to dismiss it, to say it was just my tired eyes playing tricks on me. But no, they didn't just glow. They flickered like a faulty neon sign. The woman behind the counter greeted me in a sing-song voice. "What's a trucker's best friend?" she asked, her lips curling into a smile that didn't quite meet her eyes. I blinked, unsure how to respond. I wasn't in the mood for riddles, and I wasn't in the mood for whatever game this was. Coffee," I muttered, eyeing the coffee machine in the corner. Her smile widened. "Her trucker's best friend is always a load that pays well," she replied in a sing-song voice, like it was some sort of riddle. I wasn't sure what the hell was going on, but I figured I'd humor her. "Right, okay, I'll take the coffee." I tried to keep my voice casual, but my hands were starting to sweat. The woman handed me the coffee, and I was about to pay when she asked, "How long do you think you'll stay?" I furrowed my brow. "What do you mean?" She smiled again. "How long until you realize you've already been here longer than you think?" The words hit me like a ton of bricks. A chill ran down my spine, and for a second, I wasn't sure if she meant it as some weird joke or if she was being serious. I grabbed the coffee, muttered a quick thanks, and turned to head back to my truck. But as I stepped out, the atmosphere felt different. The air was thicker. The hum of the neon light seemed louder, and the quiet of the night was suddenly unbearable. I climbed back into my rig, trying to shake the unsettling feeling that was settling deep into my bones. I turned the engine over, but as the truck roared to life, a strange thing happened. The road that had been leading me here was gone. The exit I came from? Gone. The sign? Gone. The lights of the truck stop? They flickered, then vanished into the blackness. I blinked, trying to wrap my head around it. The road ahead was still there, stretching out into the distance, but it was different. The streetlights that had lined the road were now gone, replaced by trees that seemed to loom impossibly tall. It was as if the entire landscape had changed while I wasn't looking. I slammed the brakes, swerving to the side of the road, and my heart thudded in my chest. What the hell was happening? I glanced down at the map. No road sign, no exit. Just an endless stretch of dark, deserted road. I was trapped. And then I heard it. A voice. Soft, distant, but close enough to make my blood freeze. "How long will you stay, trucker?" I whipped around, my eyes scanning the empty truck stop in the rearview mirror. No one was there. The place was silent. Just the soft, low hum of my engine and my racing heartbeat. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. "This isn't real," I muttered to myself. But then I saw it out of the corner of my eye, a figure standing by the gas pumps watching me. The person was staring at me, their face in shadow, but the blue eyes glowed from the darkness, flickering, like stars in the night, and they were smiling. I wasn't sure if it was the exhaustion playing tricks on me, but I knew one thing: something wasn't right. And I wasn't going to find out what it was by sticking around. But as I hit the accelerator and sped down the road, the blue light seemed to follow me, chasing me with every mile. I don't know how long I had been driving. The road stretched, on for what felt like forever. The landscape around me had turned into something that didn't belong in the real world. Twisted, gnarled trees with limbs reaching out like fingers, the sky above darkening into a shade of purple that didn't belong in nature. I glanced into the rearview mirror again, and sure enough, the glow of those blue eyes lingered in my reflection, like some uninvited ghost following me in the night. I was still rattled from the bizarre encounter at the blue light truck stop. But as the miles ticked by, I thought maybe I'd imagined it all. Exhaustion does strange things to a person, especially on long drives. Maybe I'd eaten something bad. Maybe the lights had played tricks on me, or maybe the riddle-asking woman was just trying to pass the time. But I couldn't shake that nagging feeling. The eerie silence that had swallowed the road, the unnerving stillness that hung thick in the air was driving me crazy. I kept checking the map, trying to find any familiar landmarks, but nothing was making sense. The road was longer than it here. Should have been. There should have been a turnoff, a sign, something, but instead the land just seemed to stretch on endlessly, like I was caught in some kind of loop. And then, out of nowhere, I saw another sign, the green highway sign up. A head flashed in the dim glow of my headlights. Blue light truck stop 5 miles. I slammed on the brakes, the truck screeching against the pavement. My pulse quickened. What the hell? I had just left there. How could I possibly be approaching it again? The place was in the middle of nowhere, in a place I had never been. I glanced down at the map again, but there was no exit for a truck stop anywhere near. Not one that I could see. I thought about just driving past it. Let the weirdness go, forget about it, keep moving forward. But the pull to go back there to figure out what the hell was going on was too strong. A wave of cold panic surged through me. What if this was some kind of trap? What if the stop wasn't just strange, it was dangerous? I could hear my heart thudding in my chest, my thoughts racing. Still, I couldn't stop myself from making the turn, following the road that beckoned me back to the stop. Every instinct told me to turn around, to leave the madness behind. But the eerie glow of the sign had a magnetic pull that was almost impossible to resist. 5 miles later, I pulled into the same truck stop, the same damned truck stop. The same old neon glow flickered above the rusty sign, and there was the same weird, unnatural blue light radiating from the gas pumps and store windows. The building itself hadn't changed. It still looked stuck in time, like the world had forgotten it was ever supposed to move forward. I parked the truck in the same spot I had before, still unsure of what had just happened or why I felt the way I did. But this time I didn't walk into the store right away. I stayed in my truck for a moment, staring at the scene before me, my fingers clenched tight around the steering wheel. The hair on the back of my neck prickled. Something felt wrong, something darker than I'd realized before. I glanced over my shoulder at the rearview mirror and saw something that made my blood run cold. A person, a shadow standing by the store's entrance, their figure barely visible under the harsh glow of the blue lights. They were motionless, but their eyes, those goddamned eyes, were glowing, brighter now, flickering like the remnants of a dying star. I could feel my pulse pounding in my throat. My gut twisted, and the words from that woman echoed in my mind. "How long do you think you'll stay?" I grabbed my jacket from the passenger seat and shoved it on. If I wasn't careful, I was going to lose my mind out here. I had to get a grip, but as I opened the door to step out, I froze. Behind me in the distance, a sound, a low murmur like a crowd of voices all whispering at once. The voices sounded like they were coming from everywhere, surrounding me, yet no one was around. They were unintelligible, like 100 people speaking in a language I couldn't understand. I turned to face the truck stop, eyes scanning the surroundings. The strange figure by the door was gone. With my heart still pounding, I took a deep breath and stepped out of the truck. The air was thick, like the night was closing in around me. As I walked toward the entrance, the same woman from before appeared, behind the counter. She smiled at me, that same unsettling, too wide smile. Her blue eyes flickered, and she said, "You're back. Ready for more riddles, trucker?" I didn't know what to say. My mind felt foggy, but I wasn't about to back down. "Why am I here?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Her smile never wavered. "A riddle's only as good as the answer you give." I didn't have the patience for this. "What do you want from me?" Her smile widened even more. "Answer the riddle and you'll see the way forward." My throat tightened. "What riddle?" The woman leaned in close, lowering her voice to a whisper. "What does it mean when the blue light burns long into the night?" I stared at her, confused. "What the hell are you talking about?" Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter now, like the answer had already been decided. "When the blue light burns long into the night, only the ones who've stayed too long can hear the truth." A cold shiver crawled up my spine. I was about to say something when the man sitting at the far corner of the store spoke up. His voice was deep, but the words felt like they crawled inside my skin. "Don't listen to her," he rasped. "They're all waiting for you. Don't answer the riddles. It's too late now." The woman glared at the man, and something in the air shifted, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees. The man, pale as a ghost, muttered something under his breath, his eyes never leaving me, but I didn't have time to figure it out. My stomach lurched. It was time to leave. No more playing around. I spun on my heel and bolted for the door. The door slammed behind me as I stepped out of the truck stop, my heart still hammering in my chest. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the woman in the store watching me, her glowing eyes following every step. But when I looked back, the place was eerily still. The hum of the neon lights was the only thing breaking the silence, their flickering glow casting unnatural shadows across the parking lot. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, something lurking just beyond my vision. The blue light seemed to pulse with an almost rhythmic, otherworldly beat, like the pulse of the place itself, alive, waiting. I took a deep breath and got back into my truck, my hands clammy on the wheel. My mind raced. There had to be some kind of explanation. I had to be dreaming, or it was the fatigue, or some weird combination of both. There was no way I could have ended up back here by accident. But the feeling in my gut, the growing gnawing sense that something wasn't right, was impossible to ignore. Before I could second-guess myself, I threw the truck into gear and drove away, hitting the gas harder than I intended. The tires screeched against the asphalt, and I shot down the road, trying to put the truck stop behind me. I'd had enough of this place. I didn't know what kind of sick game they were playing, but I wasn't sticking around to figure it out. But the road ahead, it wasn't the same. I swear to God it wasn't. When I first made the turn to leave, I was sure I was heading back to the highway. But now, the trees had grown denser, their twisted, gnarled branches stretching over the road like they were trying to trap me, to keep me from escaping. The soft glow of the blue lights seemed to hang in the air, distorting the landscape around me. I didn't know whether it was the fog or my mind playing tricks, but I could feel the weight of it pressing in. I glanced down at the GPS screen, just to check if I was still on track. And that's when I saw it. The map was completely blank. No roads, no landmarks, no exits, Just a black void like the whole place had been erased from existence. The GPS froze, then flickered to life again, but there was no signal. Just a dark screen. I hit the power button and nothing happened. No matter how many times I tried, the screen remained dead, the map gone. I swore under my breath. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. I looked up, heart racing in my chest, just in time to see the road ahead twist into a sharp curve. My headlights barely pierced the thick darkness, but there was someone, standing by the side of the road. A man, tall, cloaked in shadow, and his eyes, glowing blue, pierced the night. My foot slammed on the brakes. I couldn't breathe. I thought about turning around, about backing the truck up, but my eyes were glued to him. His eyes, those cold, unnatural, blue eyes were staring right at me, and then he moved. Slow at first and then faster. Too fast. He darted across the road, blocking my path, forcing me to slam my foot down on the brakes once more. The truck screeched to a halt, just inches from him, but he didn't flinch. He just stood there, staring. Not a word. His gaze drilled into me like he was seeing straight through me. My breath caught in my throat as the figure stepped closer, his face now visible in the glow of the headlights. And that's when I saw it. His face was wrong, like something had been stitched together. There was an unnatural stillness about him, a pallor that made him look more like a mannequin than a human. "Where are you going?" the man asked, his voice low and gravelly, like it was being dragged through mud. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. He didn't seem to notice. His eyes glowed brighter, and his lips pulled into a thin, almost cruel smile. "You can't run from the riddle. You'll never escape it." The words hit me like a slap in the face. A heavy silence followed, thick with tension, as if the entire world was holding its breath. I tried to speak, but nothing came. My mind was racing, trying to process what was happening, trying to make sense of the nightmare that was unfolding. Then, just as quickly as he'd appeared, the man turned and disappeared into the darkness, vanishing like smoke. The glow of his eyes was the last thing I saw before he was swallowed by the night. I sat there for a long moment, unable to move, unable to speak, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't know what to do. This whole place was a trap. And somehow I was caught in the middle of it. I finally gathered enough courage to start the truck again. I pulled forward, my eyes scanning the road ahead for any sign of that man or anyone else. But there was nothing. The trees, the road, everything had returned to normal. The strange glow was gone, and the map had reset itself. For all I knew, I had imagined the whole thing. I wasn't sure if I could trust what my mind was telling me, but the feeling of being watched, of being followed, never left. It was there, lurking in the back of my mind, and it was getting stronger. By the time I saw the next exit sign, I was desperate for any kind of relief. The road was still unfamiliar, but I needed to get away from that truck stop. I didn't care where I ended up as long as it wasn't there. I turned down the exit, praying that this would finally lead me somewhere normal. But when I hit the curve and saw the road ahead, my heart sank. The blue light truck stop was back. The same rusted sign, the same flickering neon, the same glowing eyes. I was trapped. I don't know how long I sat there in the truck. My knuckles were white from gripping the steering wheel too hard, my breath shallow, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The neon lights of the blue light truck stop flickered in the distance, a cruel reminder that no matter how far I'd driven, no matter how many turns I had taken, this place was always one step ahead. The eerie glow of the sign seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat. Each flicker was like a cruel laugh mocking me for thinking I could escape. The road, the trees, the sky, everything looked exactly the same as when I had arrived. But this wasn't the same place, was it? My mind raced as I tried to piece together the nightmarish puzzle in front of me. I slammed my fist on the dashboard. This can't be real. This isn't real. But no matter how hard I tried to convince myself, the truck stop didn't disappear. The blue lights didn't fade. The air didn't feel like air anymore. It felt thick, oppressive, almost alive. And I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape them. There were other trucks in the lot now, some parked and some idling, their engines running in a constant hum, a drone that made the whole place feel like it was vibrating with some kind of dark energy. I glanced out the window again, trying to catch my breath, and that's when I saw them, the truckers. They weren't just sitting in their cabs or standing by their rigs. They were walking or maybe floating. The way they moved wasn't right. There was no natural rhythm to their steps. They shuffled like puppets whose strings had been pulled too tight. Some of them had their heads down, their hands hanging, limply by their sides, and their eyes, those eyes were all glowing. Blue. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure who slowly approached the window. His skin was pale and mottled, like something that had been rotting for too long. His eyes, those cold, unblinking blue eyes, were locked on mine, and the longer I stared, the more I felt like I was suffocating. It was like his gaze was sucking the air out of the cab, draining every ounce of life from me. "Don't fight it," the man rasped, his voice low, barely audible over the hum of the trucks. "You're one of us now." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "What do you want from me?" The man didn't speak. Instead, he gave me a slow, deliberate smile, a smile that was missing something human, something real. He reached up and pressed a hand against the truck's window. The touch was slow, almost gentle, but it sent an electric jolt through the glass. I jumped back instinctively, my heart racing. "You've been here before," he whispered, his voice now a hollow echo in my mind. "You've always been here." The words sent a shockwave of terror through me. The idea that I had always been here, that somehow the road had been looping around me, trapping me in this cursed place, it made me feel like I was losing my mind. Quickly cranked the window up, cutting off his voice, but the damage had already been done. That phrase echoed in my skull, replaying over and over, as if the man had planted a seed that had taken root in my mind. "You've always been here." I threw the truck into reverse, desperate to get out of the lot, but my foot froze on the pedal. Something was wrong. The parking lot seemed smaller now, more crowded. The trucks were closer. There were more figures, standing around in the dark, more pairs of glowing eyes, and all of them were staring right at me. And then the store door opened. The woman from earlier stepped out into the lot. Her smile was wide, too wide, and her blue eyes shone brighter than ever before. She didn't walk toward me, she floated. Her feet never touched the ground. She moved like a ghost, like something that didn't belong in this world. "Leaving so soon," she called, her voice sugary sweet, but with an edge of something dark, lurking underneath. I pressed the gas pedal to the floor, the engine roaring to life as I shot forward. But no matter how fast I drove, the truck stop never seemed to move behind me. It was like the road had no end. There was no exit, no way out. I glanced at the rearview mirror, my stomach dropping into my feet. The truck stop had followed me. It was right there, just behind me, like it was always meant to be. The blue lights were brighter now, more intense, casting an unnatural glow over the road. I turned the wheel, trying to take a sharp curve, but the road twisted and bent in impossible ways. Every time I tried to make a turn, the road changed, reshaping itself, pulling me back toward that damn truck stop. That's when I realized it. I was trapped in a loop, a never-ending cycle that I couldn't escape. "Why won't you let me leave?" I shouted, my voice hoarse, panicked. "What do you want from me?" A voice crackled through the truck's radio, low and distorted. It sounded like it was coming from all around me, inside my head, deep in my bones. "You've answered the riddle, trucker," the voice rasped. "There's no escape. You're one of us now." My hands gripped the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me anchored to reality. I knew what was happening. It had to be. The glowing blue eyes, the strange, nonsensical riddles, they were all part of the trap. A trap I had willingly walked into, driven straight into with my own decisions, and now there was no going back. The truck was speeding down the endless road, the blue glow of the truck stop haunting me in the distance. No matter how many miles I drove, no matter how hard I tried to push the pedal to the metal, the place was always there, always watching, always pulling me back. I glanced out the window again, desperate to see something, anything familiar. The world outside the truck was nothing more than a blur of darkness and shadows. But just then, I saw a figure standing in the road. It was another man, another trucker, and his eyes were glowing. But this time, he wasn't just standing. He was moving toward me, faster than I could react. My foot slammed down on the brakes, but it was too late. The truck was already sliding toward him. The figure stepped into the headlights, his grin wide, blue eyes glowing brightly as he reached out a hand toward the truck. And that's when I heard it, the riddle, the one I couldn't answer. When the light fades, who will you be? I tried to scream, but my voice was drowned by the sound of the truck's tires skidding across the road. The truck lurched to a halt, tires screeching against the asphalt. But it wasn't my brakes that stopped me. It was something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the figure in the headlights. The blue eyes gleamed brightly, reflecting the truck's headlights like they were a mirror, and the grin on his face only grew wider. As he stepped closer to the front of my vehicle, for a second everything felt suspended in time. My world, my thoughts, everything seemed to hang in the balance between reality and nightmare. The air inside the truck felt thicker now, as if the very atmosphere had changed to match the oppressive, supernatural weight of the place. I slammed the truck into park, my hands shaking as they gripped the wheel. The figure in front of the truck, another trucker I assumed, didn't move, but his eyes were locked on mine. There was no fear, no hesitation. Just an unsettling calm, like he knew exactly what was about to happen. "You've arrived at the end of your journey," the man finally spoke, his voice sounding like it was filtered through static, distant yet close. It was cold and emotionless. "The question remains. Answer it and the riddle will be complete." My mind spun. My pulse raced. What the hell was he talking about? The question. What question? Was he talking about the one he'd just asked? The one that was still echoing in my mind, vibrating through my bones? "When the light fades, who will you be?" I swallowed hard, trying to force the question out of my head, but it felt like my mind was fighting me. I knew deep down that this wasn't just some random riddle. It was the riddle, the key to everything, to getting out, but I couldn't make sense of it. I glanced out the window, half expecting to see more of those glowing-eyed figures creeping out of the darkness, but it was just the same endless stretch of black road, with nothing but the low hum of the truck stop's neon lights shining in the distance. My mind was starting to fray at the edges, and I knew I was running out of time. "You've seen the answer," the man continued, his tone still flat, but there was an edge to it now, like he was getting frustrated with me. "You've always known it." I didn't answer right away because I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what the question meant. Suddenly there was a flicker in the air, like a shimmer, almost invisible, but undeniable. The atmosphere around me seemed to warp, bending at the edges of my vision, as if the reality of this place was thinning out, revealing something darker underneath. The man's smile widened, as though he knew exactly what I was thinking. "You've seen the signs, the lights, the riddle. It's always been here. And now you must choose. Will you be the one who stays or the one who leaves?" I felt my chest tighten. Choose? I couldn't breathe. My hands were still locked on the wheel, but I could feel them trembling, my palms slick with sweat. Every part of me screamed to drive away, to slam the truck in reverse and get the hell out of here. But I knew it wouldn't work. I knew the road wouldn't let me go. I looked back at the glowing eyes of the figure before me, those unblinking, blue orbs staring straight through me. He had no life behind them. He wasn't human. He couldn't be. The realization hit me like a slap in the face. The people at the truck stop, every one of them with glowing blue eyes, they were all like him. This place, the riddle, it wasn't just some bizarre accident. This was part of something bigger, something ancient, something far beyond my understanding. They had all answered the riddle, and now they were here, stuck in this place, forever bound to the light that would never fade. I turned the key, trying to start the truck again, but the engine sputtered. It was no use. The truck was dead. I was dead. That's when I heard it. A soft, low voice, whispering like the wind in the trees. "The answer is you." My breath caught in my throat. I jerked my head around, looking for the source of the voice, but there was no one else in the truck with me. It wasn't the man standing outside either. The voice was coming from somewhere much deeper, inside my mind. I sat frozen for a second, processing the words, the weight of them sinking into my skin like ice. The answer is you. The riddle. It wasn't asking about the truck stop or the people here or the glowing eyes. It was asking about me. about who I would become once the light faded, once I stepped into the void of this place. Would I become one of them? Would I be just another person wandering these endless roads with blue eyes and a twisted smile? I didn't want to become like them, but I didn't have a choice. The voice whispered again, but this time it was clearer, more insistent. When the light fades, who will you be? I closed my eyes, trying to block it out, but the words wouldn't stop. My mind swirled. The riddle, echoing louder and louder in my skull. The answer is you. And then I knew. The riddle wasn't asking about my physical body. It wasn't asking about who I had been or who I was when I arrived at the blue light truck stop. The answer had always been right in front of me. It was about what I would become when I crossed over. A chill ran down my spine, and my mind clicked into place. The light, the neon blue, wasn't just a physical thing. It was the essence of the place, of what had claimed everyone who came here. Everyone who stayed. The riddle was asking me if I wanted to stay, if I wanted to let the light consume me and become part of the endless cycle of lost souls trapped in this forsaken place. The answer was simple. I could either join them or keep running, and no matter how much I ran, the blue light would follow. It always did. I wasn't sure what my answer was going to be yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I could never outrun this place, not without the riddle's answer. I sat there, in the truck, staring into the thick darkness of the Appalachian night. The only thing lighting the way was the constant, pulsing blue glow of the truck stop sign in the distance, as unyielding as the gravity of the situation itself. The weight of the riddle hung in the air, thick and suffocating, and every second that passed felt like an eternity. When the light fades, who will you be? I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape them. The figure outside the truck was still standing there, his unblinking eyes fixed on mine, his smile wide and knowing. All of them, every single person who'd wandered in, every trucker who'd come to the stop, had answered the riddle. And now it was my turn. I turned the key again, trying to start the truck, but it was no use. The engine made an empty, mechanical whine before sputtering out entirely. The air inside the cab was thick with a sense of finality. The truck wouldn't start. The road wouldn't let me go. The blue light truck stop had me, and there was no getting out. Answer the question, the man outside the truck repeated, his voice echoing in my skull, a sinister whisper that I couldn't escape. When the light fades, who will you be? I closed my eyes, my mind spinning. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but I was paralyzed, trapped in this nightmare, this endless cycle, the riddle. It wasn't just a test of wit. It was a test of will, of identity, of the very essence of who I was. And it had been staring me in the face this whole time. The truth was slowly dawning on me. The glowing blue eyes, the riddles, the strange people. They weren't just truckers who had gotten lost. They were all like me, lost to this place, stuck, in a purgatory that had no end. I was just another soul bound to the blue light truck stop, and I had always been bound to it. I had been called here just like everyone before me. I looked back out the window. The man outside hadn't moved. He was still staring at me, but his expression had changed. There was no smugness now, no cold amusement. It was something else. It was expectation, as if he knew I had finally figured it out. The truth twisted inside me like a knife. I was here for a reason. I had been pulled into this place not by mistake, but by design. The truck stop didn't just trap people, it chose them, and I was one of those chosen. I had been brought here to take my place in this endless loop, to become a part of the crew. Just another glowing-eyed wanderer. But the riddle was my chance to break free. There had to be a way out. There had to be a way to reverse. I refused to believe I was bound to this cursed place forever. No matter what, I wasn't ready to become like them, to stand in the shadows of that blue light forever. The whispering voice grew louder in my head, urging me to answer, but my thoughts were a blur. The trucker, the other wanderers, they weren't here by choice, not truly. They had all answered the riddle, but none of them had truly understood it. They had given in, become part of the light. But I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. The man outside the truck took a step forward, his face now pressed against the glass. The blue light reflected off his skin, casting his face into sharp relief, but there was no warmth to his expression. He was a shadow in the light, a ghost of someone who had forgotten their own name. "You can't escape," he said, his voice cold and mechanical. "You've always been one of us." "No," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I'm not like you." He didn't say anything, for a long moment, and I wondered if perhaps I had finally gotten through to him. But then the smile returned, wider, stretching too far. "You were never meant to be anything else," he said softly, almost pityingly. "When the light fades, you will be." And that was when I realized it. That was when I understood the true meaning of the riddle. It wasn't about who I was when the light was on. It was about who I would become when the light went out. I wasn't supposed to leave. I wasn't supposed to fight it. I had been brought here to fulfill a purpose just like the others. I wasn't a man anymore. I was part of the truck stop, part of its dark, glowing soul. I was going to become one of them. The man outside the truck faded from view, his figure blurring into the darkness. I couldn't move. The truck felt like it was sinking into the ground. The blue light, the pulse of it, was getting brighter, flooding my mind, filling my senses. I could hear whispers all around me now. Faint, distant voices, like the souls of the people who had come before me, all speaking at once. "Join us, become one of us. When the light fades, who will you be?" I squeezed my eyes shut, blocking out the voices, the light, the riddle. And for a moment I tried to fight it. I tried to push back, to scream, to run. But then, it happened. The light flickered. The truck seemed to shake beneath me, the ground, vibrating. The eerie hum of the truck stop was replaced by an unnatural silence. The blue light pulsed one last time before it blinked out entirely, leaving me in the blackness. The night was colder now. The voices had stopped. And that's when I knew the answer was me. The riddle had been asking not who I would be, but what I would become when the light faded. The final truth, the one I had been avoiding, was that I was already part of this place. I had always been part of it. The truck stop was a cycle, a loop, and I was now part of that loop, bound by the light and the darkness, trapped in the same endless glowing purgatory. The blue light flickered again just once before it went dark for good, and that was when I understood. I was no longer a man. I was just another trucker in the cycle. My eyes would glow blue, my smile would stretch unnaturally wide, and I would wander these roads forever, waiting for the next lost soul to arrive. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking, but they were also changing. The skin felt thin, translucent, as if it was melting away, being replaced by something darker, something unnatural. But I wasn't afraid anymore. When the light fades, who will you be? The answer was clear. I was home. It was one of those nights that felt like the world had gone quiet, too quiet. The roads were empty, not a soul in sight, and the only thing that seemed alive was the truck beneath me, humming steadily along the highway. I don't mind it usually, being alone, that is. It's part of the job when you're a long-haul trucker. Just you, the wheel, and the road stretching out into the night. The hum of the engine becomes a sort of lullaby. But tonight, there was something different, something that nagged at me from the moment I pulled into that rest stop. The neon lights flickered overhead, buzzing like a dying insect. The air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and burnt rubber, and the rest stop was abandoned, save for a lone truck, my truck, parked at the farthest edge of the lot. I'd been driving for hours, too many hours, and I could feel the fatigue settling in. But I had to stop, even if I didn't want to. Black Hollow Freight, that's who I was, hauling for tonight. Never heard of them before, at least not until a few weeks ago when I picked up the job. It wasn't a regular gig, but the pay was more than decent, so I didn't ask too many questions. Long hauls at odd hours of the night, a trailer sealed, tighter than a vault. No real paperwork other than a cryptic bill of lading that didn't say much. It was strange, but you get used to strange things in this line of work. After all, every day's a new load, a new set of weird deliveries. Sometimes it's antiques, sometimes farm equipment, sometimes things you'd rather not know too much about. Tonight, though, the cargo felt different. The trailer I was hauling was enormous, the kind you don't see every day. It wasn't full of the usual boxes and crates. It had this strange, ominous aura about it. The edges of the cargo were wrapped in this dark, peeling tarp, the weight of it sagging low against the trailer. But what got to me wasn't the load itself, it was the seals. I pulled over, parked the truck under one of the flickering lights, and turned off the engine. The stillness of the night settled in around me, the kind of silence that presses on your ears, making you feel like something's about to happen. Like you're not really alone. I looked out at the trailer in the dim light, and that's when I noticed it, the symbols. They weren't regular seals. No, these were something else entirely. They were intricately carved, almost like ancient. Runes drawn across the edges of the trailer doors. They looked like something from an old ritual book or a grimoire. Symbols I couldn't recognize. Symbols that shouldn't have been there. Certainly not on a regular cargo trailer. I tried to tell myself it was just some weird branding or a new client who wanted to be unique. But something about it unsettled me. The air felt different. Around the trailer, almost like it had a charge, a hum that seemed to vibrate just below the surface. The seals weren't just decorative. They were alive somehow, pulsating in the darkness. I shook my head, trying to shake off the creeping sense of unease. Just a trailer, just a load. But the doubt kept gnawing at me. I walked toward the back of the truck, my boots crunching the gravel beneath me. The moment I took another step closer, I felt that sensation again, the air around the trailer thickening, as if something was watching me. I stopped. The hair on the back of my neck stood up and my stomach twisted into a knot. I took a deep breath, and that's when I heard it. A whisper. It was so faint I almost thought I was imagining it. I froze, straining to listen. Eli. I looked around the lot, but there was no one. Just the empty rest stop, the lonely truck, and the night stretching on. But the whisper came again, more distinct this time. My name. It felt like it was coming from inside the trailer itself, like someone was trying to reach me from behind those sealed doors. I took a step back, a chill running down my spine. "Stop it," I muttered under my breath. "You're hearing things. Get a grip." But even as I told myself that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was pulling me toward that trailer. The urge to open it, to see what was inside, gnawed at me. I couldn't explain it, but I felt compelled, like I had to know. I pulled out my phone, half expecting to see a missed call, a message, anything that might explain why my skin was prickling with a cold sweat. But there was nothing. Just the same empty screen. Still, I couldn't stop looking at the seals, the strange symbols etched into the metal. They looked like they were moving, like the ink was shifting, the lines writhing in the faint glow of the rest stoplights. And then, for the first time, I noticed something else. On one side of the trailer, near the bottom, there was a faint glow. I knelt down, squinting, and there it was, a symbol that I hadn't seen before. This one was different. It was burnt into the metal like someone had heated the steel to the point of cracking it open. The edges of the symbol seemed to shimmer, and the closer I got, the more intense the pull became. I wasn't sure what I was feeling, but my instinct screamed at me to leave, to just get back in the truck, start the engine, and drive away. Forget this job. Forget Black Hollow Freight. I should have turned around right then and there, but as I stood up, I heard it again. Eli, it was louder now, sharper. It didn't sound like the wind or a trick of my tired mind anymore. It was real. It was calling me. I wiped my hand across my face, trying to shake off the sudden rush of dizziness that hit me. There was no reason to stay, no reason to open the doors, no reason to investigate. But every part of me, my body, my gut, told me I had to. I knew I should have turned and walked away. I knew I should have climbed back into that truck and driven into the night without looking back. But I couldn't. Before I knew it, my feet were carrying me back to the trailer, each step drawing me closer to the doors. My fingers brushed the cold metal of the seals again, and I could feel that strange hum pulsing beneath my fingertips. My breath came faster now, panic creeping into my chest. But still, I reached for the latch. "No," I whispered to myself, but it was too late. My hand was already there, and the moment I touched it, the seal shifted. The latch clicked. The truck's engine hummed beneath me. but all I could hear now was the thundering rush of blood in my ears. I had my hands tight on the wheel, but my mind was somewhere else. I should have started the engine and driven away, just put this night behind me. There were countless rest stops in the world, and this one was clearly haunted. Or maybe I'd just snapped from being on the road too long. I could have convinced myself of that, told myself I was imagining things, but the voice wouldn't let me. It had taken hold of something deep inside me, and no matter how much I tried to push it back, the pull to investigate, the pull to understand, was too strong. I sat there, the engine idling, staring out at the trailer in the dim glow of the rest stoplights. The symbols on the trailer doors were still there, glowing faintly in the dark as though they were alive, pulsating in the distance. Eli? I jumped at the sound, heart in my throat. The voice was faint at first, but this time it came like a low whisper in my ear, as if someone was standing right beside me in the truck. But there was no one. The rest stop had been empty when I pulled in, and it was still empty now. I swallowed, trying to steady myself. Stop it. Get it together, I muttered under my breath, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, but the voice didn't let up. Come closer. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog, but it was getting harder to fight. I wasn't sure anymore whether it was my mind playing tricks on me or if there was something truly otherworldly at play. What do you want? I whispered aloud, the words trembling in my throat before I could stop them. There was silence for a moment, and for a second I thought I'd imagined it all, until the answer came. You already know what's inside. The words felt like a slap to the face, sudden and sharp. Something inside me twisted. Was it fear, curiosity? Whatever it was, I couldn't help but feel compelled. I had to know. I couldn't just leave. Something was forcing me to approach that sealed trailer. But what if I was wrong? What if opening it meant something far worse than I could even imagine? I fought the urge to climb out of the truck. I couldn't. I shouldn't. But every part of me was pushing forward. My hands trembled on the wheel, and before I knew it, I was stepping out of the truck, the cold air biting at my skin. The moment my boots hit the ground, I felt that same oppressive weight, like the air had thickened around me. The fog had grown denser, curling around my ankles like hands reaching up, trying to pull me back. But I stepped forward anyway, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the back of the trailer, the whispering ceased. The silence was absolute. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the sealed doors, the strange symbols glowing faintly in the night. The world felt still, unnatural. The rest stop, the truck, the road, everything had vanished. It was just me and the trailer. I reached out instinctively, my fingers brushing the symbols. The moment they touched the surface, the air shifted. I could feel a pulse beneath my fingertips, like the trailer was breathing, alive, waiting. Eli? It wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a command. I jerked my hand back. But something had already changed. The trailer door, still sealed moments ago, shifted. The lock on it, once unbreakable, now clicked. The moment I heard that sound, I felt the ice-cold grip of dread clutch at my chest. Every instinct told me to run, to jump back in the truck, start the engine, and never look back, but I couldn't. I wasn't sure if it was curiosity or something darker, but I knew in that moment that I wasn't going anywhere without opening that door, so I did it. I placed both hands on the door and pushed. There was a slight creak as the door gave way, just a fraction. The smell hit me first, musty, damp, like old wood left in the rain. Then the air changed, thickening again, almost swallowing me, a heavy pressure in my head, in my chest. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, and every instinct told me to close the door and run. But I couldn't. I took a deep breath and pulled harder, the door groaning as it opened fully. Inside. Darkness. But not just any darkness. No, this was deeper, heavier. The interior of the trailer seemed to stretch into an endless void. I could barely make out the shapes in the distance. Crates, boxes, the outline of something large and unidentifiable. The smell was suffocating now, mixed with something else. Something metallic, like blood or iron. It stung my nostrils, made my stomach turn, and then, just as I thought I might back away, I heard it again. Come closer. The voice was louder now, urgent, and it was coming from deep within the darkness. Something in me wanted to scream, wanted to run, but another part of me, something darker, wanted to step inside. I wasn't sure when my legs moved, but before I knew it, I was inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut, behind me with a deafening thud. My heart lurched in my chest. The air inside was thick, almost like I was breathing through a dense fog, but I couldn't see anything. My hands went out in front of me, and I touched something cold, metallic. My fingers brushed over it, tracing shapes I couldn't understand, symbols carved into the surface. I swallowed hard, trying to calm my breath. I reached deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, my fingers hit something soft. Flesh. A low gasp slipped from my throat, my mind barely registering what I'd just touched. I yanked my hand back, stumbling away, but the darkness seemed to close in around me. The air felt heavier now, alive, and the whispering was back. Eli. The voice had changed. It was no longer a request, it was a demand. You belong to us now. The door creaked as it opened, and the sound echoed like a warning in the stillness of the night. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat thudding in my ears as the cold air wrapped itself around me. For a moment I stood frozen, staring at the empty blackness of the trailer's interior. It was so dark that I couldn't make out a thing beyond the immediate threshold. It felt as if the space inside stretched on forever, a void that reached deep into the belly of the earth. The whispering had stopped, but I could feel it, the pull. Something was beckoning me, coaxing me to take that next step, to push deeper into the darkness. I don't know why I didn't turn back. Every cell in my body screamed at me to leave, to close that door and run. But curiosity, the damn curiosity, was like a drug. I had to see it. I had to know what was inside. I stepped forward. The instant my boots hit the cold metal floor, the air around me seemed to shift, like the trailer had closed in around me. My breath came out in shallow bursts, visible in the cool air. The silence in the trailer was suffocating, but there was something else too. It wasn't just quiet. It was heavy. The darkness pressed in on all sides, thick like it had substance, like it was alive. I reached forward, my hands trembling slightly, and fumbled along the interior. There was nothing to see. No light, no sound, just this oppressive void swallowing everything. But then I felt something, a slight vibration under my fingertips. It was subtle, but it was there. A faint hum, like the sound of an old machine, running, something hidden deep within the walls of the trailer. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. The hum wasn't just mechanical, though. It felt wrong. It wasn't the usual sound of a truck, a freight system, or even a refrigeration unit. It was something else entirely. The hum felt alive, sentient, and with it came a strange cold dread that crawled up the back of my neck, spreading like ice through my veins. I stepped further in, my boots scraping the metal floor, the sound of my footsteps oddly muffled, as if the very air in here absorbed them. I fumbled for my flashlight, clicking it on. The beam flickered at first, almost as if it didn't want to cooperate, but when it finally illuminated the space, my breath hitched. In my throat, crates and boxes stacked high, far higher than what I should have been able to see, given the size of the trailer. But it wasn't the size that unsettled me. It was the marks. They weren't just your usual cargo labels or shipping tags. These were the same strange symbols I had seen on the trailer's exterior, etched into the boxes with a precision that sent chills down my spine, as if these boxes had been marked with intent, with purpose. And then it hit me, the smell. At first it was subtle, the staleness of old wood and dust. But as I took a few more steps into the trailer, the air shifted and the scent grew thicker. I could smell metal, like something damp and rusty, mingling with the unmistakable scent of something darker, something familiar. Blood. I stopped dead in my tracks. My throat tightened, my stomach turning over. I couldn't help it. My eyes darted to the crates around me, and I could swear I saw the faintest movement at the edges of my vision. A shift in the shadows, a twitch in the air. Eli, The whisper came again, louder this time, as though it was inside my head. It didn't come from the crates or the boxes. It wasn't even in the trailer. It was coming from within me. My heart skipped a beat, and for a brief moment, I considered turning around. I should have. I should have run, jumped back in that truck, and driven until the world was behind me. But it was like I couldn't. There was something in the air, something calling me, pulling me deeper into the cargo hold. I swallowed hard and turned to the first crate I could reach, my fingers trembling as I brushed aside the strange symbols carved into the wood. My gut screamed at me not to open it, but it didn't matter. My hands moved on their own. The seal on the crate was tight, but with a little force, I pried it open. What I saw inside made my blood run cold. A jar. It was small, about the size of a regular mason jar, but the contents were what froze me in place. Inside the jar, suspended in some kind of viscous fluid, was a human eye. It floated in the jar, the iris still intact, staring at me with a sense of recognition, as though it knew who I was. My pulse hammered in my ears, and I stumbled back, knocking into one of the crates behind me. The jar rattled, its lid clinking. Ominously, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. The eye seemed to shift in the liquid, watching me, its focus never breaking. And then, whispering. The voice came from inside the jar. Or at least that's what it felt like. Eli, I backed up, suddenly dizzy, a cold sweat breaking out across my brow. I fumbled for my phone, but my hands were shaking too much to hold it steady. What the hell was this? What was inside this trailer? And why did it feel like it was somehow aware of me? You're here now, the voice whispered again, but this time it wasn't just an eerie voice in my head. No, it felt like the very air around me had spoken. I turned, desperate to get out, to leave before this, whatever it was, could claim me. But just as I made for the door, I heard the unmistakable click of the latch. The trailer door slammed shut, trapping me inside. The door slammed shut behind me with a finality that felt like a death sentence. A sickening thud reverberated through the trailer, and for a moment everything stood still. Time seemed to freeze, my heart pounding in my chest, my breath shallow and rapid, every inch of my skin tingling with the cold fingers of panic creeping over me. I turned toward the door, hands shaking as I gripped the cold metal handle, but the latch wouldn't budge. It was as though it had sealed itself with a force that no human hand could undo. The metallic hum from before, the strange vibration that had filled the trailer, was now louder, almost deafening, like 1,000 insects crawling under my skin, each buzz sharp and biting. I pressed my ear to the door, hoping to hear something, anything, that might signal someone was outside, that someone might hear me. But there was nothing, only the deep, suffocating silence that pressed in on all sides. Eli. The whisper came again, but this time it wasn't in my head. It was right there, as if someone was standing next to me, breathing in my ear. The sound was low, guttural, almost hungry. My stomach lurched. I wanted to scream, to shout, to tear at the door, but my body betrayed me. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I turned slowly, my feet heavy, as though each step was a battle against the gravity of whatever force had taken hold of this place. The trailer was no longer just an empty container. It was something else, something ancient and malevolent. A cage built just for me. The crates around me had shifted. They hadn't moved physically, but the energy in the air was different. The vibration underfoot was now a thrum, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to beat in sync with my own frantic heart. I looked at the jar with the eye, still sitting on the crate where I'd left it. The eye hadn't moved, but I could swear it was, watching me more intently now, and the voice, it was getting louder. It was coming from all directions, swirling in my mind like a whirlpool. You shouldn't have opened it, Eli. Now it's too late. I took a step back, my head spinning. Too late for what? I whispered to the darkness. My voice sounded small, weak in this place, but I couldn't stop myself from asking. Too late for you to leave. The trailer shook. It wasn't a physical movement, not the kind that would have knocked me off my feet, but it was enough to make the air ripple, enough to make the crates shift and groan. The hum intensified, turning into a low growl that rattled the walls of the trailer. I could feel the vibrations in my chest, as if the very bones inside me were being reverberated through the sound. It was like the trailer itself was alive. Staggered back, tripping over something soft in the dark, and fell hard against one of the crates. A sharp pain shot through my ribs and I gasped, trying to steady myself. My fingers brushed against something cold and wet, and when I pulled my hand back, I saw it. Blood. The floor of the trailer was streaked with dark, clotted patches of it, almost hidden under the crates. I hadn't noticed it before, but it was. There now, thick and sticky. The blood seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the hum, as if it were somehow part of the trailer, part of whatever force had locked me inside. You opened it. The voice wasn't a whisper now. It was clear, resonating through the air like an omnipresent hum, wrapping around me, suffocating me. I stood up shakily, my chest tight with fear, and scanned the trailer. But there was no one, just the crates, the blood, the unrelenting darkness. And then I saw something move. The shadow shifted in the corner, something slithering. A shape, long and twisted, slithered from behind one of the crates and inched its way toward me. I froze. It was alive. I couldn't see what it was, not exactly, but I could hear it, the sound of wet, scraping limbs dragging against the floor. My pulse pounded in my throat, and I could feel my hands begin to tremble uncontrollably. I took a step back, my foot sliding through the blood-soaked floor. My mouth went dry. Whatever it was coming closer. It's already inside you. Eli. The voice came again, closer this time. I spun around, desperately trying to find the source of the voice, but I couldn't. It was all around me, inside me. It was as if the very air was speaking, screaming at me, and I could feel it digging into my mind, clawing at my sanity. Then, in the dim light from my flashlight, I saw it. The thing from the shadows. Its shape was like nothing I'd ever seen before. A mass of shifting, writhing darkness, with glowing red eyes that blinked in unison. It was formless, yet it had form, a roiling, living shadow that seemed to grow with every breath I took. The eyes, they watched me, unblinking, their gaze, heavy and laden with knowledge. You shouldn't have come. The thing's voice wasn't a whisper anymore. It was clear, direct, and it echoed inside my mind like an endless chime. But now you belong to us. I backed away, my feet slipping in the slick blood on the floor. I reached out, grasping for anything, but there was nothing. The crates, each marked with those damned symbols, seemed to close in on me, trapping me in place. The walls themselves seemed to be closing, the air growing thicker, more oppressive. The creature, whatever it was, had come closer, its shape now more defined, more solid. It was like a mass of shadow that fed on light, swallowing the beam of my flashlight and leaving me in pitch darkness. The growling hum intensified, reverberating through my body, until it felt like I was drowning in sound. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could hear was that damn voice. The price of curiosity, Eli, is your soul. And then the darkness rushed at me. I felt the darkness close in around me, thick as tar, suffocating, as if the very air had become poison. My heart was a drumbeat in my chest, echoing, pounding, louder and louder, until I thought it might burst. The hum had become a cacophony of deafening noise, a blur of whispers, growls, and something other, something ancient, pounding at the edges of my mind. It felt like the trailer itself was closing in on me, the walls pressing in, squeezing the air from my lungs. I couldn't see it, not clearly, but I knew it was there. The thing, the shadow, with those glowing red eyes that had never blinked. It was no longer a distant thing. It was in front of me, right there, breathing in the suffocating dark, reaching for me. I stumbled back, my hands flailing in the thick air, searching for something, anything solid to hold on to. The blood underfoot squelched as I moved, the slippery warmth of it seeping through my boots, wrapping around my legs like an iron shackle, holding me down. You've seen too much, Eli. The voice was like a lullaby from hell, soft, coaxing, almost pitying, but it felt like a curse. My skin crawled with the weight of its words, pressing into my bones, sinking into the marrow. I couldn't move. It was like the trailer itself had become a prison. My legs refused to obey, like they were locked in place by the sheer force of the thing's will. It was as if the darkness had seeped into my very being, now part of me, binding me to it. You shouldn't have opened the door. You shouldn't have looked inside. The shadow took a step forward. I could feel it move, its presence, even though it was still out of my sight. It was like the air itself was alive, suffused with this malevolent force that clung to everything. Wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my throat was tight, my breath ragged. The weight of the curse was too strong. It was pulling me in, tying me to the trailer, tying me to the cargo, to the thing that had been waiting for me all along. My entire body felt heavy, like I was sinking into quicksand, like I was no longer in control. It's too late to fight. The voice came again, now more demanding. You belong to us now. It felt like a command, one I couldn't resist, like my very soul was being claimed by this force in the dark. My hands shook, but they weren't shaking because I was scared. No, at least, not entirely. I was shaking because something else, something inside me was beginning to respond to the voice. Something ancient, something wrong. I felt it, the pull. It was in my chest now, like something was anchoring me to the ground, chaining me to this nightmare. The trailer, the crates, the blood, they were all part of it, all part of the binding. The shadows seemed to grow darker, heavier, and the walls themselves seemed to close in on me. I thought I saw movement, something shifting within the dark. Mass, something wriggling, twisting, coming closer. The red eyes blinked, but the glow intensified, blinding, burning my vision. It felt like they were pulling at me, tearing through my soul, trying to reach something deeper. I couldn't breathe. You will never leave. Not now. Not after what you've seen. It was no longer just a voice. It was everywhere. Inside me. Around me. I could feel it in my chest, in my bones, in the very air I was gasping for. My heart was pounding like a drum, and with every beat I felt the weight of the curse settle deeper inside me. The blood on the floor shifted. It moved, as if it had a will of its own, squirming, rising in places like it was alive. My eyes widened as I watched it, the thick red liquid coiling around my feet, sliding up my legs, clinging to me, holding me there. It wasn't just blood anymore, it was binding me. The darkness had a scent like iron and rot, and it filled my lungs, suffocating me. I screamed. Finally, I screamed. I pushed against the walls of the trailer, my hands scraping at the metal. But it was no use. I couldn't move. I was caught, ensnared, just like the others before me. Let go, Eli. The voice was softer now, almost soothing, almost kind. Let us take you. Let us make you one with the darkness. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to fight. I wanted to tear myself away from this nightmare, to run and never look back. But the pull was too strong. The blood, the darkness, the shadows, all of it had wrapped around me, pulling me down like a weight. I couldn't escape. I felt it then, a shift inside me, something twisting, changing. A part of me, something I didn't even know I had, was now bound to this place, to this thing, to the cargo that had whispered my name. The blood around my legs began to thicken, congealing as if it was preparing for something. The shadow before me shifted again, and I could see it now. It wasn't just a creature. No, it was something else, something that had always been there, something ancient, something that preyed on the curious, on those who dared to open doors they should never have touched. I felt the creature's red eyes pierce through me, deep into my very soul, as if it were reading every secret I had ever hidden. I couldn't move, I couldn't run. Now, Eli, you belong to us. And with that the shadows closed in, swallowing me whole. I don't know how much time had passed since I opened that damn door. Time seemed irrelevant now. The only thing that mattered was the dark void in front of me, the blackness that stretched endlessly, an insatiable abyss that hummed with an eerie, otherworldly energy. The blood in my veins ran cold as the darkness itself. My mind raced, trying to process the scene, trying to make sense of it, but it was impossible. The trailer had become alive, pulsing and vibrating with some terrible force. The walls seemed to flex, the air thicker than ever, pressing down on me like the weight of an entire universe. The whispers grew louder, and with them, the overwhelming sense of dread. You shouldn't have opened the door. The voice was everywhere, now not just in my head, but surrounding me, inside the walls, under the floor, crawling in the air like 1,000 slithering things. It was unavoidable. It was like a storm crashing in, overwhelming all my senses. I couldn't move. My legs were frozen, rooted to the floor by the sheer force of the darkness. The trailer itself seemed to mock me, the cargo within whispering, its secrets, its ancient curses. I could feel the shadow creeping in, curling around my body, sinking into the marrow of my bones. I had opened the door and now there was no escape. The red eyes, those damned red eyes, stared at me from the endless blackness, their gaze so piercing, so knowing, that it felt like they were looking straight into the core of my soul. I had tried to fight it. I had tried to resist, but I was losing. The pull was too strong now. Too much time had passed. It's too late, Eli. The voice was no longer soft. It was heavy, full of finality, like the last toll of a bell, ringing in the distance as the end approached. The shadows around me, stretched, warping like they were breathing, taking shape. I could see them now, not fully, but I could feel them. Something in the blackness moved, undulating, an unseen, terrible presence that was closing in. I stumbled forward, my heart pounding in my chest, but my legs felt like lead. The ground beneath me seemed to shift, pulling me down. The sickening warmth of the blood underfoot grew, thick and slippery, and I could feel it pulling at my ankles like it was alive, like it was part of the curse. Then a terrible thought struck me. The trailer, the cargo, it wasn't just an object, it was alive. Everything inside it, the blood, the crates, the strange symbols, the shadows, everything was part of something ancient, something evil. I had thought I was just transporting it, but I was wrong. The trailer, the cargo, had been waiting for me. Had it always been waiting? Or had it chosen me? The air hummed again, and the darkness seemed to grow. The very air around me twisted, and I felt my mind begin to crack. It was as though my thoughts were being pulled into the void, being consumed by whatever lay in the blackness behind the door. I couldn't focus on anything. The whispers, the voices, all of it, everything was merging into one overwhelming flood of chaos. I had to get out. I had to escape. But as I stepped forward, the door slammed shut with a sound like thunder, shaking the trailer to its core. The creature, the force, had reacted. The trailer groaned under the pressure, the metallic screech filling the air like a living thing in pain. My breath caught in my throat. The walls around me bent and shifted, as if they were closing in on me. The space seemed to compress, like the trailer was folding itself into something smaller, something more oppressive. You can't escape. The voice was inside me now, crawling through my veins, eating away at my will. My thoughts slowed. My actions were sluggish. I reached out toward the door again, desperate to open it, to tear it from its frame, but it wouldn't move. The darkness was swallowing the entire trailer. The blackness behind the door had become a living thing, and it was pulling me into it, suffocating me with its weight. I stumbled back, my hand running over the crates, trying to find something, anything to hold on to. But the moment my fingers brushed one of the crates, I felt it, the vibration. A sharp, jarring pulse ran through the crate. It wasn't just the hum I'd felt before. This was something far more sinister. The crate trembled, and suddenly the symbols on its surface seemed to glow with an otherworldly light, red and pulsing, alive. I couldn't stop myself. I opened it. I had to open it. The moment I touched the lid, the air inside the crate exploded with an energy I couldn't comprehend. It was as though the crate was an anchor for some forbidden power, and now I had unleashed it. The dark energy flooded out, swirling around me like a storm. The very air seemed to twist and scream. Inside the crate, a sickening presence stared back at me. The jar, the one with the eye, had changed. It wasn't just an eye anymore, it was alive. It blinked and stared at me, and I could feel it. The presence inside the jar wasn't just watching me. It was feeding on me. It was feeding on my fear. The darkness around me shifted. The shadows that had been creeping, curling around my body, now seemed to solidify, taking shape, becoming more than just shadows. The form of a figure began to emerge from the blackness, tall, cloaked in the shadows, but with a face that was utterly blank, as if there were no features, just an empty, hollow visage, but I could feel it. I knew it. It was the thing that had been watching me, the thing that had been in the cargo all along, and now it was free. My breath caught in my throat. The creature stepped forward, its movements slow, deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. The red eyes blinked once more, and I felt them pierce straight through me, into the very heart of my soul. "You are mine." The words were a command, but they weren't spoken aloud. They were inside me, wrapping around my mind, taking root in my thoughts. I couldn't move. My body was frozen in place, the darkness closing in around me. The shadows were now inside, me suffusing every part of my being. I could feel them pulling at my thoughts, erasing them, consuming me. I screamed again, this time more out of instinct than anything else, but the sound was muffled, swallowed by the overwhelming silence that filled the trailer. Then everything stopped. The shadows, the whispers, the pulsing hum, all of it ceased. For a moment I thought I had died. I thought I had been taken. And then the final seal was placed. The eye in the jar blinked once more, and I felt it. A cold, final sensation settled over me, and in that moment I knew I had become a part of the trailer, a part of the cargo, just like all those who had come before me. The trailer was no longer just a prison. It was a tomb. Epilogue. The mark of the cargo. When the police found the truck the next morning, there was no sign of Eli. The trailer was locked tight, and everything inside was gone. No crates, no blood, no bloodstains or markings. The only thing left was a name, scratched into the metal walls as if it had been there forever. Eli. And the whispers began again.